Hi everyone, for today's math lesson, our objective is I can interpret data from various line plots. We have been interpreting data for a couple weeks now, and we have created many different types of graphs and diagrams. We've created bar graphs and tape diagrams and picture graphs and number lines. So today we are going to take a look at line plots. On the left-hand side, we have our data. This data shows the names and ages of kids at a birthday party. We have Anna, Matt, Jason, Carlos, Mary, Isabella, Pablo, and Allison. And I'm going to use my data to show you how to create a line plot. So I started off by drawing a line at the bottom. And I can see from my data that the youngest kid at the party is Jason. Jason is 4 years old. And the oldest kids at the party are Allison, Carlos, and Matt. They are 9 years old. So when I create my line plot, I'm going to start off at 4. And I'm going to stop at 9 because there aren't any kids at the party that are older than 9 years old. And I'm going to start with Anna. Anna is 8 years old. When I create a line plot, I represent Anna by drawing an X above the 8. Matt is 9 years old. Jason is 4. Carlos is 9. Mary is 6. Isabella is 5. Pablo is 8. And Allison is also 9. Okay, and this is our line plot. Our line plot tells us the ages of kids at John's birthday party. Okay, so now that we know what a line plot is, we are going to take a look at this line plot that I have on my whiteboard, and we are going to use this line plot to interpret the data. And what that means is we're going to make sense of the information on the line plot. So if you notice on my line plot, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, and I have some tick marks that aren't labeled. What should I label this tick mark right here? So you might have said that this tick mark is halfway between 1 and 2. And if you said 1.5, you are correct. We have 1, 1.5, 2, 2.5, 3, 3.5, and 4. Okay, and what does a number 1 represent on this line plot? I want you to stop and think. The number 1 represents 1 hour spent outside over the weekend. The number 1 represents 1 hour spent outside over the weekend. What does the number 1.5 represent on this line plot? Stop and think. The number 1.5 represents 1.5 hours spent outside over the weekend. Now I want you to stop and think, what is 1.5 hours? How much time is that? Well, if you think about 1 hour is 60 minutes. If we have 1 hour, 1 and a half of an hour is half of 60 minutes, which would be 30 minutes. So we would have 1 hour and 30 minutes, or 60 plus 30, which is 90 minutes. Now, if I said that this line plot had represented the number of people, would it make sense for this 1.5 to represent a person? Are we able to have 1.5 persons, or 2.5 persons, or 3.5 people? No, it would not make sense because you cannot have a fraction of a person. So when we use fractions on line plots, we need to make sure that it makes sense for the units to be given as fractions. What else besides time could you show on a line plot with fractions? Stop and think. You could show the height of your classmates on a line plot with fractions. You could show your shoe sizes on a line plot with fractions. You could show the height of a plant on a line plot with fractions. You could show anything that you can measure on a line plot with fractions. So, how is a line plot like a bar graph or a tape diagram? So the x's kind of look like bars in a bar graph. The tallest column of x's shows the most, which is similar to a bar graph. The tallest bar showed the most. The x's are kind of like the units of 1 in a tape diagram. And we also know that the smallest number of x's shows the least, which is similar to a bar graph. So which amount of time spent outside has the most x's? 2 hours. So 2 hours was the most time spent outside over the weekend. What is the second most frequent amount of time spent outside? Well, if 2 is the most frequent amount of time spent outside because it has the most number of x's, then the second most would be the number with the second most x's. So if I take a look at my line plot, I can see that 1.5 hours was the second most frequent time spent outside over the weekend. And what does each x on the line plot represent? Each x on the line plot represents one person. So how many people spent 2.5 hours outside? 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 people spent 2.5 hours outside over the weekend. Okay, and that's the end of today's math lesson. I will be giving you an exit ticket to work on, which will be a line plot and some questions for you to answer. Please submit your exit ticket by the end of today or by tomorrow morning so I can take a look at it and give you feedback. If you need help, please reach out to me and I can help you. See you next time. Bye.